Hey folks, welcome back. It's week 2 of the Active Self-Protection FBI Challenge. Hope you got your first week in. Get ready for some more.
The new Mantis X10 firearms performance system has all the goodness of the original, plus holster draw analysis and recoil analysis. It's a fantastic upgrade and I recommend it highly.
All right, so if you followed along and did week 1 with us, you practiced for 50 minutes last week. You got 5 10-minute sessions. Maybe you got a little more, maybe you got a little less. Hey, life happens. I get that. I have a life. I have kids. I have a wife. I have grandkids. You know, I'm that old. Whew. Anyway, so things happen. I totally understand. That's why we're only doing 5 days out of the week. Hopefully we can get to them, and hopefully it's 10 minutes. Hopefully we can make that happen. I know sometimes that's a challenge. If you had a challenge, pick yourself up and keep going. Let's move through this thing. Don't get down on yourself and say, oh, I missed a day, I'm out. You're not out. You're only out when you quit, and we don't quit, right? So if you did this, you got 50 minutes of practice, pulled the trigger, 300 to 400 times, somewhere in that ballpark, probably got some good practice, and that's going to be good for all of us, right? Whether your benchmark at the beginning was higher or lower than the one at the end doesn't really worry me at this point because we're only 1 week into it, and I'm okay with that. With that said, week 2, here we go. You're going to start week 2. Got my gun, got my barrel block, got my mag block, got my Mantis. I need a different color t-shirt, don't I? Hey, Mantis, anybody want to get me a t-shirt? Okay. Anyway, hey, so week 2, what we're going to do is we've worked on pressing that trigger, right? But we're going to start the week the same way we started last week and the same way we ended last week. I want to start with the Mantis benchmark. I want you to press out, find your target, 10 good trigger presses. Take a couple of minutes. Don't rush through this. 2 minutes. Make sure that everyone's good. When you press out, I want you to think about your grip. Think about your stance. Where are your feet? Where are your hips? Where are your shoulders? Where are your hands? Support hand is important, and this pinky is a really big deal. Think about that. Think about that good grip, and get 10 good trigger presses. Now that's where you're starting this week. You're going to write that down again like you did at the beginning and end of last week. And now we're going to get into the drills. So you're going to take about 2 to 3 minutes and we're going to do open training. Just press out there, 2 to 3 minutes and open training. Get a good target, get a good sight picture, get a good grip, all of that stuff. You're watching these scores. I want you aiming and working to be above 90s as you're pulling the trigger on your Mantis. If you don't have your Mantis, I get it. It's completely fine. You can do this without it. It's going to be a little bit more difficult. But if you're going to do that, just give me 5 minutes of just pressing out and pulling trigger because you can't do a benchmark. I get it. I understand. But I highly recommend these things, not just because they're a sponsor, but because this thing has made me a better shooter. It'll make you a better shooter too. Okay, so press out there, get a few trigger presses like that. Now, once you've got 5 minutes in and you've got 5 minutes left of your 10 minutes of the day, what I want you to do is I want you to work on strong hand only. We're gonna press out. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can do strong hand only. John's got a bunch of videos on there. You've probably seen some of them. There's other people that do training. Everybody there's lots of different ways, right? I have the way that I like to do it. I think I got this from Scott Jedlinski, and I want to give credit where credit is due, but it could have been anybody, really, because I've done a fair amount of training, but Scott is one that has really helped me a tremendous amount. Look up the Modern Samurai guy. He's legit, right? Press out there, find your sight, and then pull your hand back. I think John Johnson does this too, but pull your hand back and then just keep your gun right where it is. And do that, pull the trigger. Give yourself 5 minutes of that. Now, there's a few different ways you can hold your thumb as you're doing that. So I'm gonna turn to the thing. So you can do a thumbs high. Here, I've got a safe direction over there too. You can do a thumbs forward where you're basically reaching forward with your thumb, or you can do a crush grip where you pull your thumb down here and get that. Everybody's a little different and some people like it differently. I actually like the thumb high. It just feels better to me, but do what feels best. And actually after you do a live fire, it might change, but know that there's some different ways to do that. And you'll also notice, I don't know if you can tell on there, my thumb isn't touching the gun. Now on the crush grip, I'm pulling down and it is a little bit, but as I'm high on there, my thumb is not touching the gun. It's really here that's got a hold of that. and as I'm forward, I'm not touching the gun either. So just understand that. Spend about 5 minutes doing that however you want. Now, the other thing to think about is that support hand, this hand. There is a... When you're making a fist here, you get a better grip there. Sympathetic squeeze, I think they call it. Again, not the words guy. I don't know how I got this gig, right? But a sympathetic squeeze will happen here if you're doing here. So I find when I'm shooting things like dot torch or whatever, and I get to the strong hand only, I shoot better if I focus on this hand, squeezing hard on this hand. I get a better press out there. So get about 5 minutes with the strong hand only. So you're gonna start with the benchmark, a few minutes of the open training just to keep working on that good solid trigger press, and then we're gonna add to it the strong hand only. Okay, so for this week, that's day 1. Days 2, 3, and 4 is gonna start out with 5 minutes of open, just like that. And then 5 minutes of strong hand only. Throw them out there and work on that. You got to see your sights. You do not have to rush through this. You're probably going to pull the trigger, let's say 35 to 50 times with 2 hands and 25 to 45 times this hand. So understand, I mean, and I'm giving you these approximates. Everybody's going to be a little bit different, but I'm giving you an approximate so you kind of know. If you're pulling that trigger 100 times just as fast as you're not getting anything out of that. I'm sorry, you'll never convince me that pulling the trigger that fast is going to help you in any way, shape, or form. So slow down and do that. Now on day 5, here's what we're going to do. Be careful. I know they don't like to say slow down in the gun world, but be careful. Slow down and take your time. Learn this. We are learning right now. This is deep learning where we're making some myelination in our brains to be able to do this when this thing's going to go bang here in a few weeks. So understand that, okay? On day 5, here's what we're going to do. We're just going to do day 1 backwards. We're going to start out with 5 minutes of strong hand only, like so. Then we're going to do 3 to 4 minutes of 2 hands. And then we're going to finish up. We're going to do a 2-handed benchmark, just as perfect as you can, 10 shots. Now that benchmark should take a couple of minutes. Take your time through that. Make sure you're focused on all of the things you're doing, that you've got a good weld, that everything's working the way that you want it. You got your thumbs where you want them, your pinkies where you want them, your feet where you want them, all of those things, and a good solid grip. If you loosen your grip and you hold this thing like it's a wet fish, you can probably score okay, but when it comes time to shoot and you have to shoot multiple shots, now you're not going to have any control over the recoil. So that's part of why we're telling you to grip it really good through that. So write down your scores for you started the week with your benchmark and where you ended. You should be higher this week. You should be moving up. Now, if you were already in the 90s with your benchmark when you started and you only go to 90.4 or 90.2 or 91, something like that, that's still improvement, right? And once you're over 90 on that average, it's really hard to move up. I've shot some high 90s. I get it. I've spent months to get that. You're not going to see huge increments in increasing scores. But however, if you started in the 70s, like I did the very first time that I shot a Mantis benchmark was at a show somewhere, I don't know where we met the Mantis guys. The first time I did it, I was in the 70s. I got better after that, right? And I saw big improvements because I did some daily practice. And when you're doing the daily practice, things get myelinated into your brain. You're going to get better, and you're going to start seeing that. So track your improvement, track your scores, see how you're doing. If you've got funky, weird scores, send us a message. Go to the Facebook page. We've got the Ask Dry Fire Challenge. Go there, join us there. You can type a message in there. There's 1,200 and some people that dry fire on a pretty regular basis. There's a lot of great guys in there that know a lot more than I do about dry fire. There's some real high-end guys that are in there. Claude Warner's one of the guys. He's the dry fire. This guy knows his stuff, right? So go ask questions. We're happy to answer. We're happy to be a part of it. We're happy you're part of the community. So join us and let's get better. So this week, again, we're working on that strong hand only because that's part of the drill that we're going to do here in a few weeks. Get ready. Let's have some fun. We'll see you in a week.